Okay, good morning, everybody. As we go to the chitas of today, we're holding in the portion of Achrei Mos. Today we go, I believe, into Kedoshim, and we're holding on chapter 18, verse number 22. Ve'zochar le'sishkav mishkevei isha. You must not lie down with a male as with a woman. Homosexuality, ta'eva he, it's abomination. Verse 23, you must not have bestiality, sleep with an animal. Thereby becoming spiritually defiled, you become impure. And so too, a woman should not allow an animal to sleep with her, to have a sexual relationship. Tevel hu, it's a depravity. Rashi says Tevel is a depravity. This term denotes prostitution, incest, and adultery. So when it says the word Tevel, has many different meanings. It can mean one of these things: prostitution, incest, and adultery. As we find, my anger is over the abomination tavlasam. Another explanation of Tevel denotes an unnatural mingling and confusion of human seed with animal seed. So Tevel can mean a couple of different words. Verse 24. Al tetamu b'chol elu, don't become spiritually defiled in all these. B'chol elu nitma hagoyim, because this is the way the nations of the world, that's the way they lived. Ashani mishalem ibnechem, which I'm sending away from you. So therefore, don't act like them. Titmaretz, and thus the land became spiritually defiled. And I have therefore brought upon account upon it the inhabitants, the sins that they did on this land. And now the land is vomiting its inhabitants. You should therefore safeguard my rules and my ordinances. And therefore you should not do. From all these abominations, whether it's a regular Jew, Hager, or it's a convert, which lives amongst you. Verse 27, all these abominations, which the people of the land did, that came before you. In the land, the Torah is talking about the land of Israel. The land became impure. Verse 28. Therefore, when you come into the land, I don't want the land to vomit you in your impurity. The way this land spit out the nations that were there before. Rashi says, this is explained like comparison to a prince who was fed something disgusting which cannot be contained in the stomach, so he vomits it out. So the land of Israel can also not retain sinners on soil. Onkelos translates v'leisakia v'leiserekun. Onkelos translates, that's why Onkelos translates the word leisakia means don't empty out. Meaning the land empties itself. Sounds better than vomiting. Leisakia, to translate, it should that the land should not empty itself. Verse 29. For anyone who commits of these abominations, these immoral sexual relationships, and these people will cut off from this nation. Now she says, and the nefashis is plural, because the prohibition is not only on the man that has this relationship, but he has a relationship with a woman, and therefore it implies both the male and a female. And you should watch this. My safeguards, levilti asis mechukas hateivos. So you shouldn't practice these abominations. Ashenas lefnechem, that was done before you. Like to tamu behem, and don't become impure in these illicit relationships. Ani Hashem Alekechem, I am God your God. She says, why does the Torah say repeat it again? To tell us over here, this teaches us that the obligation of the court is an obligation of Beis Din to make sure that the people know the law and that they follow the law. They have an obligation. Related tamu, from which can be inferred that if you become defiled by them, I am not your God. As you cause the special relationship you enjoy with me to be undermined, what benefit then do I have from you? And you will be punished by annihilation, God forbid. Therefore says, I am God, your God. Ani Hashem Alekechem. That's how Rashi translates why the verse ends off, I am God, your God. And now we go into the portion of Kedoshim, which is chapter 19, verse number 1. And God spoke to Moshe saying, speak to the entire Jewish community. And tell them, Kedoshim Tiu, be holy. Because I'm God who's holy. She says, this teaches us that this passage was said to all of Jews assembled, the majority, the basic tenets of Torah. This parsha is a packed parsha. It's a small parsha, but a packed parsha which has in it many laws of Torah. Roiv gufa Torah tluyim by the expression in Rashi. The majority, the basic tenets of the Torah is based in this week in the parsha Kedoshim. Kedoshim Tiu. What does that mean? You should be holy. And Rashi is, if you distance yourself from forbidden relationships, continuation of last week's parsha. Continuation of previous parsha. And for the sins in general, wherever you find the safeguard against forbidden relationship, you find the concept of holiness. As it says, the priest must not marry an unfaithful woman and one who demoted, because I, God, who sanctified you. So you see that the Torah puts relationship is holy. Actually, we call marriage Kedushin. In Jewish law, it's called Kedushin, which is holiness. So a marriage is a holy act. A relationship between a couple is a holy concept. It's called Kedushin, Kaddish. He must cause his offspring to be demoted, and I am God who sanctified him. So we see the connection. They must be holy. Rashi brings another one. Isha Zoina v'chalala, an unfaithful woman, he's not allowed to marry. So you see that the Torah puts these two things together. The concept of holiness and immorality and things that are connected to unholy things and immoral things. Verse 3, Ish imoy va'aviv tiro. Everyone must fear their father and mother. They have to have fear. But you should keep my Shabbos. Ani Hashem Alekechem. I am God your God. Now she says, you must fear your mother and father, meaning each one amongst you must fear his father and his mother. This is a straightforward meaning. But the Medrash explains, Ish. It says a man, meaning why does it say a man, not a Isha, a woman? I only know a man is obligated. From where do I know that a woman is obligated to honor, to fear her parents? Since it says Tira'u, so that's plural, which entices two types of people. Therefore, we know both are obligated. A man and a woman are both obligated in Kibbud Aveim. So why does it say Ish if a woman is obligated also? Because a man has a full means to perform this commandment. So a man is much more obligated in Kibbud Aveim than a woman, than his wife. Because a wife has other issues. She has children. She has other obligations. And therefore, she is not obligated in Kibbud Aveim like a man. A man has, she still has Kibbud Aveim, but she doesn't have the same level of Kibbud Aveim like a man. Imay va'aviv tiro, you should fear your mother and your father. Here the Torah mentions the mother before the father, because it's apparent to God that a child naturally feels his father more than his mother. However, regarding honor your parents, because the Torah says two things. The Torah says in 10 Commandments, Kabed esav v'yichal v'etzimecha. Over here it says, Imay v'aviv tiro. So over here, the Torah tells you, even though you naturally fear your father, you still have to fear your mother. And when it comes to kibbud, to honor, a child naturally honors his mother. If father stated, and therefore the Torah states honoring your father before the mother, because it's apparent to God that a child naturally honors his mother more than his father, because he has a special relationship with his mother, because she influenced him with speech. She's much more kind to him, and therefore he honors his mother more than his father. Therefore, the Torah puts in the Ten Commandments that you're to honor your father first, because you naturally honor your mother, and the mitzvah is to honor your father nevertheless. Then the pasuk says you have to keep the Shabbos. The observance of Shabbos place. What is the connection between honor your father and mother and the Shabbos? Implies, although I charge you with fearing your father, even I tell you have to fear your father. Now, what happens? Your father says, break a Torah law. You honor me. I want to take you to a non-kosher restaurant. Honor your father and mother. Fear your father and mother. You might say, okay, what should I do? I'm doing a mitzvah. I'm honoring my father and mother. So therefore, the Torah says no, that they're both obligated to honor me. And therefore, if your father, your mother tells you to do a sin, you don't have to follow that. So therefore, that's what the Torah, that's how Rashi learns it. The Gemara learns it, actually. That's how the Gemara learns that if it tells you to desecrate the Shabbos, you must not obey them. The same applies to all other commandments. If your parents tell you to break the Torah, you cannot use the commandment of honor your father and mother. This is a very important thing today. Even today, a lot of, especially I'm dealing with one, when a parent wanted cremation, you have to honor their wishes. You have always, suddenly everybody comes to honor their parents when it comes to this. And here the pasuk tells us openly, you don't have to honor your parents when it comes to Hepech HaTorah. You don't have to honor them, because both are obligated to honor God. And that's the pasuk. Ani Hashem Elokecha. Therefore, the Rashi says again, both of you, your father, must honor me. Therefore, do not obey him to transgress any commandments. No such thing. To honor your parents if they pashut are going against the Torah. What then the proper fear of your parents? So therefore, we have two things: the fear of parents and honor parents. Two different obligations. What means to fear your parents? Do not sit in his place. Do not speak when his turn to do so. Don't speak in front of your father. Do not contradict his words. Even in Allah, if your father says something that's the opposite of Jewish law, you're not going to tell him per se, you're wrong. You have to show him the pasuk, show him the law, and let him come to his own conclusion. What is the honor your parents? Honor your parents. He who gives them to eat and drink. Your mother comes to your house. You have to feed them, help him put on his jacket, help him take off his jacket, put on his shoes, etc. Help him go in, help him go out. That is the honor. So there's an honor and it's fear. There's a concept of respecting your parents. Do not turn thoughts to idol worship. And don't make yourself a molten image. Ani Hashem Elokecha, I am God, your God. Rashi says, Al tifnu. That means don't even turn towards idols. To think about worshiping them. Considered like, because Elilim, Rashi then explains the word Elilim, El Al, that it's like no, El Al, it's related to Al, not Elilim, that the God is not. Okay, Masecha, molten deities, beginning they are Elilim, worthless. But if you turn your thought towards them, you'll ultimately make them into a deity. Rashi says, do not make them for yourselves, meaning you must not make them for your others either. And others may not make them for you. If you imagine that the words you may not make for yourself implies, but others can make for you, I answer, it already says, you not possess any idols, not made by you and not made by others. You can't find an excuse that that somebody else made it for you. Verse 5. When you bring a peace offering to God, it should be brought for your goodwill. The same tizbach should be brought. It must be slaughtered in such to obtain my favor for you. It's an interesting word over here. As Rashi says, this passage was stated only to teach us that the slaughter of such sacrifice must be done for the sole intention that it's be eaten in the time that Seinchem, the time for his word, if it just tells us set a time limit for eating them, that's already stated. The sacrifice is to fulfill a vow and dedication. You can look it up in Vayikra. Over here, it needs to be done for that time. The Seinchem Tizbachu, you must slaughter it for such that it obtains favor for you, meaning its initial shachting must be performed with the purpose of pleasing me in order that it obtains my favor for you. That means it means done for a shlomim. You're doing what a shlomim is, a peace offering. What am I trying to bring a peace offering? A peace offering between me and God. So it needs to be that I'm trying to, so to say, bring a peace between us. That's why it's called shlomim, because it brings peace between one Jew and another Jew, the Kohen and the Jew who brought it, because both of them receive the Kohen. It also brings peace between me and God. And that's why I'm bringing a shlomim. For whatever reason, I want to bring a peace offering to God, to thank the Eibishter that we have a relationship, whatever relationship I have. So therefore, it needs to be done in that kind of a fashion. I'm trying to bring it for the sake of a peace offering. Because excuse me. For if you have a unfit thought when you bring this offering, then it doesn't attain this concept. So machshava is important when it comes to a carbon. We know that does bring a carbon has no value if you don't have the right machshava, you don't have the right thoughts. To appease for you, no French is appeasement. This is according to the straightforward meaning, for your appeasement. Our rabbis explain as the meaning by your will, deriving from here that unaware slaughtering of a sacrifice renders it invalid. It needs to be l'tzeichem. That means that somebody else cannot bring for me a carbon shlomim, and it'll be like I brought it. No, it needs to be l'tzeichem, that I want that this carbon to be brought. He must slaughter it intentionally. L'tzeichem. So either it means, in essence, Rashi says you can learn l'tzeichem two ways. L'tzeichem that God wills it, or you will it. So that's why you see in English he translates it as the beginning of Rashi. My favor for you, l'tzeichem tizbachu, my favor. But Rashi says you can also translate it as l'tzeichem, your favor. You do it l'ratzenchem, that you did it for you. You did it because you had a ratz and a will to do it. Verse number 6. A day that you slaughter it, you should eat it. And the next day, that means 2 days. A shlomim can be eaten for 2 days. Anything that's left over to the third day, it needs to be burnt. It's called, what's in Hebrew, it's called halacha of noisar. Noisar, leftovers. Rashi says, 1 day you slaughter it must be eaten. When you slaughter with the intention to eat it in the time that I've told you. So if you have, as the Torah is going to soon say, if you have even a thought that you can eat it for 3 days, it's called, what the next verse says, pigel. Called pigel. So even your thought makes the sacrifice into an abomination. Pigel. Contemptible thing. So you have to have the machshava. Not only that you're shechting the animal for the shlomim, you have to have the machshava of how long you're going to eat this animal. And a shlomim is eaten for 2 days. If you eat it on the third day, you'll see how Rashi translates this verse. If you eat it on the third day, pigelhu, it is a contemptible sacrifice. Lo yirotze. It's not lo yirotze, no value. Rashi says, since this verse cannot refer to slaughtering a sacrifice with the intent to eat it outside its prescribed time, for that has already been stated. If his slaughter articulated his intent that some flesh of his P4s and be promoting a feast offering to be eaten on the third day, the offering will not be accepted. So therefore, what is the Torah talking about? Apply it instead to the slaughtering a sacrifice with the intent to eat it outside its prescribed place. So there's a lot of intentions that when you bring a korban, especially a shlamim, because a shlamim could be eaten out of the Beis Hamikdash, eaten in Yerushalayim. But let's say a guy is thinking he's going to go to Yitzvas, he's going to go to eat it in a different city. By mistake, even it's not a good korban anymore. So this we find this expression in Gemara, im ein inyan. If it's not for this, if the Torah doesn't need to teach us A, it comes to teach us B. You got to go to Zvachim, as the Rashi says. You have to go to Gemara and Zvachim to learn exactly how to learn this pasuk. I might think that such a sacrifice incurs a penalty of kares. If the Torah states regarding a sacrifice slaughtered with the intent to eat outside the prescribed time, and the person who eats it will bear its sin. One who eats of it is liable, but not one who eats similarly disqualified sacrifice. This excludes from the concept of kares that was slaughtered with the intent to eat outside its prescribed place. So again, you got to learn the Gemara. So there's two different concepts. A person who brought a korban and he thought to eat it outside its time, it's pigel. And the korban is invalid even though he's eating in the time. And so to a person who is machshava, maybe he did by mistake, thought that way, that he could eat this korban out of its place, out of Yerushalayim, it's also invalid. There's a difference, but in the concept of the ramifications of the law. And one is kares and one is not. And you have to, again, go Gemara's Zvachim and learn how they learn these psukim. Pigel, what's pigel? The word pigel is contemptible. As in the verse that contains the contemptible in Yeshayahu, it says, Pigule Kilechem, your vessels are contemptible. Verse 8, V'averchlov Aveina Yisro. And a person that eats it, and we'll see what Rashi says, what the pasuk over here means. A person that eats the animal at the third day, I'll just say what Rashi says. A person that eats actually animal after 3 days, on the third day, Aveina Yisro, he carries a sin. Because Kodesh Hashem Chilel, because he profaned the holy sacrifice of God. And that person who eats noisar, that person's cut off. Now she says this verse is speaking about a sacrificial meat that was left over, actually left over, beyond its prescribed time, but not one that but one that does not incur cut off. And stated in the previous verse, eating a sacrifice slaughtered with the intent. So again, we have to know exactly when you get kares. Nobody should get kares, but we have to know that if you eat it noisa, actually eat noisa, you get kares, because a noisa needs to be burnt. Intentionally, selfless and unintentionally, you don't get kares. But if you did intentionally, you get kares. And but if you eat it before its time with the machshava, you don't get kares. You have to do tshuva selfless. Eating the sacrifice slaughtered with the intent to eat outside the prescribed place. The scripture already excluded this, as explained here. This verse must be therefore speaking about sacrificial offering left over beyond its prescribed time. In tractate of Ksubis, this derived by the means of an analogy. Look at the Gemara You see on Rashi, in two Rashis, Rashi brought the Gemara in Zvachim, and the Gemara in Kirisus. You'll see that a lot of times the Torah is, to get the whole halacha, you have to learn a lot of Gemara, a lot of different Gemaras. Verse number 9. And when you reap the harvest of your land. Now the Torah gives us the law of leket, shikha, and peah. That a farmer that harvests his land has to leave over 3 things: leket, shikha, and peah. That's the other Torah says. You should not cut off the corners. That's like peah. You're not allowed to cut the corners of your head. You're not allowed to cut the corners of your field. No, you may gather the gleaning of your harvest. If your leket is, if you drop something, while you were collecting it, it dropped, at least, as Rashi will say, you explain you how much. 1 or 2 stalks, you have to leave it. Rashi says, number 1, peah. The Torah talks that one must leave over the corner at the end of his field. And we know, how much is a corner? There's no share. A corner is what you want a corner to be. So that's why also, right, you have in payas, you have some people who leave their payas grow long on their head, and some that don't. Ein lam share. It's not the exact same thing. But okay, we were talking about the corner of your field. That the corner of your field, I pay you. At how much is a corner? And shit, the Torah doesn't give you what is a corner. It can be 1 stalk, it can be 150 stalks. Everybody can decide what a corner is. The stalks that fall down from your reaping. So Rashi says this is a share. 1 or 2 at a time. But 3 together are not considered leket. If I drop 3, I can pick it up. Verse number 10. You must not glean the young grapes of your vineyard. Nor you collect the full individual grapes of your vineyard. You should leave it for the poor. Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am God your God. What is it talking about? Rashi says means do not take undeveloped clusters, which can be distinguished as follows. What is undeveloped clusters? Any cluster that has neither a shoulder, a katev, or nor a dangling portion. It means it hasn't yet fallen. Means individual grapes that fall during the grape harvest. At shikha. You forget stuff. Ani Hashem Elokeichem. I'm sorry, Perekaimecha. You said that. Ani Hashem Elokeichem. Why does it say I'm God your God? Because this is judgment. God, you should realize God is the one is watching. For these commandments, I demand none other than the soul as a retribution. As it says, do not steal from the poor, for God will plead their cause. Verse 11, Leisignaivu, do not steal. Leisichashu, do not falsely deny. Leisishakru, do not lie. Ishba misay one another. Rashi says, here is the commandment of stealing. This is a prohibition of stealing money. The Leisig Noivu in the 10 Commandments talks about kidnapping. This is deduced from its context, as kidnapping is a matter incurring death penalty by sentence to the court, while this prohibition of stealing is not death penalty. You have to pay back. But in the Torah, in the 10 Commandments, it's a death penalty, and therefore it's stealing a person, kidnapping. Hostages, you're chayiv misa. You're punished by death. For the fact that he says a kichesh, he denies it, for which one pays the principal additional fifth. We have learned only the penalty for denial. But whether we know the corresponding prohibition, The fact that the Torah says that you must not falsely deny a claim. We know when a person makes a vow on denial of a claim and he's found to lie, that he lied, he ultimately comes forward and he says, I lied. He has to pay the value of the claim and add to it as a knas, because you lied, kichesh, you lied. Shakru, you denied. Shakru, the fact that he says that he swore falsely, for which he must pay the principal additional fifth, we learn that only the penalty for swearing falsely. Where do we know that the corresponding prohibition, the fact that the Torah says over here, you're not allowed to lie. So you have three prohibitions in one pasuk. Do not steal, do not deny, do not lie. So the sequence, Rashi says, of these prohibitions teaches us, if you steal, you'll end up denying it. And ultimately, you'll end up lying. Because what means lying? You're gonna swear falsely. And that's what ultimately is gonna happen. That's the next verse. You're lying, people get caught up in their lies that they're gonna say, I in the name of God, whatever, I never happened. So they're gonna come to swear falsely. And then what happens is you have now profaned God. Ani Hashem, I'm your God. Rashi says, why is it stated? Since it says you must not swear I am my name of God, it's already the pasuk. The Torah already, the Ten Commandments. I might think that this means that one is liable only by swearing by the unique name of God, using the Shem HaMefeirish, Yud Kei Vav Kei. For where do we know that it includes the prohibition in all the other names of God, 7 names of God? The fact that the Torah says you must not swear falsely by my name, Bishmi. Any name that I have, you must not swear falsely by my name, implying any name that I have. Not only in the name of God, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's considered a false vow. Verse 13. You're not allowed to oppress another person. You're not allowed to rob him. Do not hold the wages of a worker until the morning. Now she says, this refers to one who holds the wages of a hired worker, is oppressing him. You know you're going to pay him. Instead of paying him on time, you pay him late. That is oppression. Leisalin, this is the feminine third person form referring to the wages. Ada Baker, this refers to speaking about a worker hired by daytime who ends his work at sunset. Therefore, the time for him to receive his wages is the entire night. So you need to pay him. Elsewhere it says, the sun must not set for his wages. That speaks of a worker hired at nighttime who finishes his work by dawn. Therefore, the time for him to receive his wages is the entire day. Since Torah gave the employer a full day or night to find the money and pay the guy his wages. So you're not allowed to press anybody, and you need your workers, you need to pay them. If they're a day worker, you need to pay them for the day. Verse 14. You're not allowed to curse a deaf person. And you're not allowed to place an obstacle before a blind person. And you should fear God. Ani Hashem, I am your God. Rashi says, from here I know you're not allowed to curse a deaf person. From where do you know you're not allowed to curse any person? The fact that the Torah says elsewhere, nor may you curse of your people. So therefore I know that you're not allowed to curse anybody. So we go back to the question. Why does the Torah say a deaf person? So why is a deaf person saying it here? In order to teach you. Just as a deaf person is alive, even though he cannot hear the curses, so does the prohibition apply to anyone who's alive. It tells you the deaf person cannot even hear you. Doesn't even hear you cursing him. What does he care that you're cursing him? He doesn't hear your curses. But he's alive. And you're not allowed to curse a person that's alive whether he hears you or doesn't hear you. Therefore, you're not allowed to curse any person that's alive whether he hears you or he doesn't hear you. This excludes a dead person. This does not have the same prohibition. The person that you cursed needs to be alive, who is no longer alive. And that's why the Torah uses these two expressions. If they evil sit in michshel, to a blind person, you're not allowed to put a stumbling block before one who's blind. Blind doesn't mean physically blind, Rashi says. It means when somebody is doesn't know the situation. So a guy doesn't know about the stock market, and you're gonna tell him, give him some advice. He has no idea, and he's a blind person. He's blind in the situation, and he's unaware of the issue of a particular situation, meaning do not give a person advice motivated by any consideration other than to benefit him. Don't say to him, sell your field and buy yourself a donkey. If you are intended to manipulate him, so you buy the field for him. And he's ignorant, he doesn't realize that he's selling his field for a donkey. Why would anybody do that? Sell his field for a donkey? A field will last forever, and a donkey might die. The guy's ignorant, and you're convincing him something that he shouldn't do. You shall fear God. Why does the Torah say over here suddenly you shall fear God? Since people have no means of ascertaining this matter, whether his person intended was for the good, for the benefit of others, or for the bad. How can you prove? I told the guy to sell his field, I'm constructing field, it's going to be I don't know, you come up with excuses. I thought the best for the guy. I told the guy to buy the stocks. I thought it's the best for him, but I didn't realize the stocks are going to crash. And he may excuse himself by saying, I intended for the good. It says here, you must fear the Eibishter, one who knows your thoughts. Similarly, God, any act that is solely for the providence of the one who performs it, that other people are unaware of its intentions, it always says you shall fear the Eibishter, because God knows the intentions. And that completes the Chumash for today, my friends. We now start a new chapter in Tanya, the 46th chapter. Previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe described in another manner in which the person can perform Torah mitzvahs with his heart, with love and fear of God. And that is by utilizing the attribute of the Yaakov, which is the quality of mercy. In this case, the individual arouses compassion within himself upon his exiled soul and upon his source, which is Ein Sof, infinite light of God, and thus the frame of mind he studies Torah before mitzvahs. So he does Torah mitzvahs. Maybe Taki doesn't have the Av, and yet he does it because the Rachamim. He has mercy on his neshama. He has mercy on God that needs and wants. That's the Ratzon of the Eibush that wants this mitzvah and restores it to his source, and that's how he connects his neshama to Ein Sof. This chapter, Alter Rebbe goes on to explain how very, very close it is to every Jew to reveal his hidden love of God. The approach explains in this chapter is novel, as the Rebbe clarifies, so much as it utilizes a Jew's very nature, thereby obviating the need for a specific manner of contemplation. A relative, general, and tangible manner of contemplation will do. Because again, the Alter Rebbe understood that he wanted Jews to contemplate on God, but it's going to be not an easy thing for Jews. And he tried to find all ways to reveal this Ava, and now he comes up with another way to reveal this Ava Hashem in less contemplation. As was explained, indeed, the lower the spiritual levels of the individual, the easier it's for him to awaken this in love. So the Alter Rebbe, this is the novel thing of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe says actually for tzaddik, it's much harder to do this. For a regular Jew, it's much easier. A paradox that will also explain presently. This manner of contemplation enables a Jew to serve God with fire, passionate love, leading him to excel in his study of Torah and forming mitzvahs. It also enables to overcome all obstacles, whether from within or from without, that seek to hinder him in the service of God. Let a man think along these lines. It's in the nature of a human being that when he feels a strong emanation of love from his fellow, he will respond in kind. When somebody loves me, a human nature is that I'm going to love them. That's why God created a human being. Leiv Adam al Adam, the heart speaks to the heart. The responsive chord of a lowly person love will all be more vibrant. It's likely, right? So the lower the person is, the more he's filled with love, the more he loves. Because if a person thinks that he's nobody, and suddenly somebody loves him, wow, that is to a person that feels lowly, that somebody suddenly recognizes him. It awakens in him a love. He's recognized. Somebody likes him. He feels like nobody, and somebody says hello to him. A special person says hello to him. Wow. That's amazing. That awakens up in the person some aspect within him. He starts to love that person who loves him. In a like manner, but definitely more so, should this apply to a human being when a human being is enveloped by God's boundless love for him. Such is the case of the Jewish people. The Jewish people should realize how much God loves them. It's a pasuk, as we say in the Mishnah and Pirkei Avos. Maybe should keep it a secret that he loves the Jewish nation. It says it in a verse, Ahavti Eschem. God says, I love you. And that alone a Jew should realize and waken up. God shows his boundless love for his people by choosing them from all created beings, from the highest level to the lowest. This love manifests itself by him taking them out of Egypt. That's why Yetzias Mitzrayim is so important, because it shows the love of God to the Jewish nation. And bestowing Torah mitzvahs upon them, that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakes as Yisrael. The Eibishter wanted to give schusim. He wanted this relationship. And so too God showed his love to every individual Jew at all times, in all places. Such a boundless love should surely awaken within a Jew a reciprocal love of God. Moreover, just as God, because of his love for the Jewish people, overcame all obstacles which stood in the way of creating this world, as we'll explain in chapter 49, so too each Jew strive to overcome all obstacles that hinder his service of God. Just like God came over all obstacles to love this world and to love because he loves a Jew, we should overcome all obstacles in our love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, let's see. Let's go into the Tanya. Yes, derech yashel lefnei ha'ish, yet there's another straight way and simple and straightforward. Shava l'chol nefesh. I'm giving you a tool that is applicable to all souls, suitable for everybody. And not only is this concept suitable to everybody, because of Adover, it's very close. Ma'od Alter Rebbe writes, very close to you. This is easy. I'm giving you an easy. Before it was hard. Contemplation, meditation, greatness of God, God fills the world. He surrounds the world. Everything is nothing to him. These are very spiritual concepts. These take time and meditation. I'm giving you something easy peasy, something that's easy to do. Moed. Alter Rebbe, just remember when the Alter Rebbe writes moed means it's easy. That's why I use the word easy peasy. It's easy, very easy. There's so much to think involves uncomplicated. This is an uncomplicated way. And the Alter Rebbe promises, so to say, it's going to arouse and kindle the light of love in your heart. Which is implanted and concealed within every Jewish heart. So this love is already found in the heart. I'm not making a new love of every Jew, because as the Alter Rebbe said many times, the Avim is every Jew. That a Jew says he doesn't feel the love of God, that's in his conscious mind. He doesn't feel the love of God. But a Jew, a Jew, have a love of God within them. Alter Rebbe said that every Jew, whether you feel or not, you have to know that concept, that every single Jew has an Ava Misuteres. Every single Jew has a hidden love to the Eibush, whether he sees it or not, whether he feels it or not. And the only obligation or the only thing that he needs to accomplish is to reveal this love. And why does he want? And the Alter Rebbe over here says he's not only going to reveal this love, he's going to reveal this love in a very powerful way. It's going to shine within him like an intense light. It's going to burn. It's going to be a burning fire. It's going to be it's going to reveal itself. I'm giving him something that is to be able to reveal not a love that is it's a love in the mind. It's actually going to be a love that's going to be burning as fire. And it's going to be so strong, you'll enable him to go and self-sacrifice even. With his whole body and open, it's to be such a love of God that it's going to, no challenges, it will overcome any challenge, overcome even the challenge of self-sacrifice and even giving everything away. He'll be able to awaken in his heart such an avid to the Eibush, such a love to God, that it will take over his soul and all his might, as we say in the Torah, with all my might. From the depth of his heart, the emes la'amita, absolute truth. Befrat, especially the Shas Krishma, especially the most special time when this Ava is needed, or this Ava is revealed, when a Jew says Krishma. When every Jew says in the morning Krishma, while it was davening, he says the Shema, and he says the blessings before the Shema. Moshe Zbar has explained later the particular connection of Shema and its blessings to the arousal of this love. So first of all, the Alter Rebbe, here is the tool. Here is the advice of the Alter Rebbe. And this technique of revealing God's love is as follows. When a person will take to his heart, the verse says, as the water mirrors the face to face, when a person looks into the water, he sees his face. Cain, or a mirror, he sees his face. Cain leva adam ela adam. So does the heart of man to man. Pirush, what is the meaning? And the case of the likeness of the feature of the face which a man presented to the water, the face you represent to the mirror is the face you see back. The identical face is reflected back to him from that water or from that mirror. So that image mirrors not only the person's external features, but also the nuance of the facial expression that signifies joy, sorrow, and so on. Person looks at himself, you can see exactly the way he is. That's why one of the reasons Chassidim around the world don't like when you take the picture. Because when you capture a person on a camera, it's like the same thing. You capture the image, or you can see, are they happy? Are they sad? Are they thinking good things? Are they thinking bad things? Because you look at a person's face, you see what he's thinking. The person himself looks at his face in a mirror or in the water over here. He sees exactly not only the reflection of his face, he sees he sees the inner aspect of his face. It reveals not only the physical state, but his mental state as well. So that's what the pasuk wants to tell you. The way a person looks at himself, he sees himself, kacha mamish, so too indeed mamish, equal. Leva Adam, the heart of a man. The pasuk's telling us the heart of a person to another person's heart. If I reveal my ava to somebody else, it's going to have a reverbing ava. It has to. The pasuk in essence tells us, we know that Rebbe would always say this, that if it doesn't work, then it's not the person's fault. It's that because I'm not revealing the ava. If the pasuk says that Kain Leva Adam El Adam, that if you show a true compassion of love to somebody else, that person will show some aspect of love back to you. That's the pasuk statement. When you show true love, we're talking about true love. When you're showing with strings attached, it's not going to work. So you have to, when you show a true ava to somebody else, that will be ma'orer and ava within that person. That's how you create loyalty between two people. That's how you create true loyalty between two people. Is not through only understanding each other, but truly loving one another. Truly having ava to somebody else. When you have ava to somebody else, that person will automatically have ava to you. For even love harbored in one's heart arouses and reflects love in another. You don't have to even know each other. And we can see that. You smile at somebody, he'll smile back at you. Usually. Surely if you do an act of kindness to somebody, it awakens up within him this connection to you. That, especially when he sees his friend's love for him freely revealed. Right? Because it's hard to know what's in another person. That's why ava in gender is a action. It's an action midah. Yeah, to show love means that I do something loving. This is a common nature. This is not something spiritual. This is the way God created humanity. Humans. I mean, there's always exception to the rule. But the general rule is that ava connects to ava. Love responds with love. That's why everything should be done with love, with chesed, ava. Even if two people are equal, two people feel equal, nevertheless, when you show an ava to somebody, it's automatically reciprocal. I once asked the Rebbe, a person went into Yechidus to the Rebbe, he said, your Chassidim love you. I've been at 7-7, everybody loves you. And the Rebbe answers, because I love them. We love each other. And ava, when you love somebody else, that person automatically loves you. That's normal. And that's the way the Eibishter created a human being. Now take that analogy and let's go to two people that are not in the same level, like a Rebbe and a Chassid. A teacher and a student. A great person and a simple person. Alachas kama kama. So now take that analogy and put it to a king in Melech Gadol V'Rav. Take a king, powerful king, And he decides, this king decides, that he's going to befriend a simple person. He's not going to have his ministers as his friends and knackers. He's going to go out and he's going to befriend a guy in the street. Nivza v'shafel. Let's say this person is not a homeless individual living in the dump. A guy who's living in a dump. A homeless individual is living in a garbage dump, and the king decides he wants to have a relationship with this guy. What would happen to this guy? What will transpire in this person? So the king, depicted here, rules not only over one land, but many. We talk about kings, he's a powerful guy. His love for that person, the person, is not only harbored in his heart, but is manifest. The manner of love is not ordinary, but great and intense. He tells the king, as he's going to sell, as you'll soon see, the king says, I don't love this guy, go give him money. No, I want to have a relationship with this guy. I want this guy, I want to bring him to the palace. I want him to be my close confidant. And the love is shown not only ordinary person, but a truly despicable character person. The Rebbe goes on to state how his love was displayed. So again, you can have a king that says, I care about these lowly people. I'm going to make fun of them. I'm going to give them money. The king goes from his high place. In Kol Sod of Yachtiv, he takes all his entourage. He takes this guy, takes him out of the garbage. He brings him to the palace. Not only to the palace. He says, I want you my private attendant. I want you my private attendant. You're not going to be like the ministers who meet me in the drawing room. I want you to be able to go anywhere in the palace. You can come to my private home. You have unlimited access to me. He shows this guy unbelievable love. He hugs him, kisses him, they become best friends. The king, for whatever reason, decides to make this is his best friend. So when a mighty king shows such a great affection and companionship to a lowly person, then what happens to that person? What happens to that individual? It transforms him. It transforms this person. He becomes a different individual. He becomes a whole different person. He was a homeless living in a garbage, and now is living in a palace. Not only is living in a palace, he has the relationship even greater than the greatest ministers of the king. Achas kama. What's going to happen? So much more so, this person is going to feel different. He's going to push it, feel like a different person. This person is going to have, wow, this king loves me. I love him. He changed my reality. Then the person, this humble person, will have such a love to this king. This will turn this to which a true attachment to this hedget. This simple person will have such a attachment to this king who wanted a relationship with him and loves him and uplifts him. Even though beforehand he had a heart like stone and not easily aroused to tender feelings of love for another, because he feels like he's in a dump. He feels like he's irrelevant. He feels like nobody looks at him. So he has a heart of stone. His his heart will turn like water. His heart, his soul will melt and run like water. With all his heart, to the loving of this king. That ends the Tanya of the day. Self-understood, I'm sure you all realize where the Alter Rebbe is going with this. That we all have to just push and realize how much this king loves us and he wants a relation with us. And even though we might feel as low as we might feel, David says, I don't care. I want a relation with you more than the greatest angels that are ministering angels to me. I want this relation with you more than with anybody else in the world. But here we end the Tanya. Today is the 9th day of the month. The Tillim of the day is chapter 49 to chapter 54. You do those 6 chapters of Psalms, you would do the Chitas of the day. The Rebbe writes today in the Yom Yom, the day to day, our teacher, the Baal Shem Tov, one of the most important teachings of the Baal Shem Tov is that every single thing that one sees or hears is an instruction for his conduct in the service of God. Shkacha pratis. The Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov taught that that everybody should realize that there's a divine purpose in everything he sees. And the Baal Shem Tov said, even if he sees a leaf, he walks out into the street and he sees a leaf lying in front of him, rolling down the street, there's a reason why God showed him that leaf. There's a purpose in his avodah, what he needs to do today in that concept. This is the idea of avodah, service, to comprehend and to discern all things, a way in which to serve God. Everything that you see, especially here, was directed to you, to me. Everything that I see or hear was directed to me. And that's Hashgacha Pratis. I have to think about it and ask myself, why did I see this thing? What is God telling me today why I saw this thing, why I heard this thing? That's Hashgacha Pratis. That's a very big teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, and self-understood, ultimately taught by the Rabbeim, that everything is divine providence. God bless you all. We'll make sure to see you all tomorrow, 8 o'clock. We'll continue to learn the Chita.